Hey everyone, and welcome to another fragrance review. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a fragrance from the designer house of Audigier, and the fragrance is called Ed Hardy Love and Luck. Now this fragrance was released in 2008. The perfumer for this fragrance is Olivier Gillotin. Olivier Gillotin has done many other designer fragrances, mostly celebrity fragrances. He's done a fragrance for Mariah Carey. I know he's done Wonderstruck by Taylor Swift. Mostly designer fragrances. A few of the popular ones that you might know are Dior Higher. A flanker to that, Dior Higher Black. He even did Polo Red by Ralph Lauren, which came out in 2013. So yeah, he's dabbled. He's gotten his foot in the door. And I believe the only niche fragrance he's released is one for the house of Tom Ford, part of the private blend line called Rive d'Ambra, which is part of the Atelier Dorian collection. But with the exception of that fragrance, he's really only done designer fragrances, and this fragrance is of course no exception to that rule. Now with this fragrance, it is the Ed Hardy name under the Audigier brand. Ed Hardy, of course, they started off making t-shirts and I believe belts and trucker hats. I believe they popularized or revolutionized or even brought back in style the trucker hat, and they decided to branch out into the perfume industry. They decided to carry over that name or that brand as well. So it does translate into fragrances as we see here, and as is the case with many other of his fragrances. Now Ed Hardy gets his name from a popular tattoo artist by the name of Don Ed Hardy, and he's really taken Asian inspired artwork and made it the basis of his career. So as you can tell by the bottle and the box, there's a lot of Asian themed or Asian inspired artwork on the presentation of his fragrances. On the front of this one it says "Love is a Gamble," so it kind of has like this gambling casino theme to it, but the fragrance was really inspired by the nightlife in Tokyo, Japan. Now, while after reading the note breakdown, I do see the spices that could possibly be a tribute or an homage to the lifestyle in Japan or Asian culture in general. Unfortunately, I don't really smell or sense those spices too much in this fragrance. I'm going to let you know a little bit more about the smell later on. Next up, let's take a look at the presentation for Ed Hardy Love and Luck by Audigier. Love and Luck is available in two sizes, 1.7 ounces and 3.4 ounces. The size that you see here is the 1.7 ounce bottle. You can also find a mini of this online with a bunch of official samples, and this fragrance is only available in eau de toilette concentration. So first up, let's take a look at the box. What you have is this cylindrical cardboard box. You have the Asian-inspired artwork here on the front. It says "Love is a Gamble." At the very top here, you have the same exact thing in black and white. This top actually comes off, and on the inside, you don't see any corrugated paper on the inside that serves to hold the bottle in place. So when you do purchase this, it does have a tendency of rattling around. I really don't like that about this, but other than that, it's okay. The cardboard is a little flimsy. It has a bit of a give to it if you squeeze it. On the back here is where you see the ingredients, some more information, the batch code, and then at the very bottom is where you have your UPC code, your barcode. That's pretty much it for the box or the cylinder. And then next up, let's take a look at the bottle. The bottle, you have the same exact design here in the front. It says "Love is a Gamble." You have some other more intricate designs in the blue here. On the very back is where you have the Ed Hardy name. It says Ed Hardy by Audigier. And at the very bottom is where you have the information that should coincide with that found on the bottom of the box, or on the back of the box actually. And then over here at the very top, you have this crest. It says DEH right above a bulldog. That's what it looks like. DEH stands for Don Ed Hardy, of course. And the sprayer for this fragrance does not work particularly well. Distribution could be better, and it could spray out a little bit more juice just to kind of compromise or to work hand in hand with the concentration of this fragrance. But other than that, I think it's a pretty cool presentation. Some have found it tacky, but that has pretty much been the presentation for Love and Luck by Ed Hardy. Now, what you're going to notice from this fragrance when you first spray it is that there is an overabundance of citrus. When you look at the note breakdown, you see mandarin orange, you see bergamot, and even cardamom is listed as a top note in this fragrance. Unfortunately, I don't really get the spices like the cardamom in the opening, the sage in the mid, but I do get the citrus. Now, I have to say that it doesn't smell overly natural, and I guess that kind of upset me a little bit because I believe that the reason why this fragrance originally sold like hotcakes is because word got out that it bared resemblance to another very popular and expensive fragrance from the House of Creed called Millésime Imperial. And that fragrance has a very natural smelling citrus in the opening. This fragrance, on the other hand, smells a little bit synthetic. Now, that does not necessarily connote a bad thing. I still like this fragrance, and I still think that the smell of this fragrance is good. Now, I believe what's responsible for the citrus qualities in the opening of this fragrance is the fact that it contains 2 aroma compounds by the name of linalool and citral. Linalool, if my research is correct, is derived from plants, and it has a bergamot oil type smell, but with a spicy kick, very mild. And then citral is like a generic smelling citrus with a lemon-like odor, so it leans a little bit more in the lemony side. And that's really what I get from this fragrance. At times it smells lemony, at times it smells orangey, at times it smells like a neutral citrus. And unfortunately, it does smell a little bit synthetic, so you really get what you pay for, and this is a very affordable fragrance, of course. Now, once it starts to dry down, in the mid we have notes like sage, don't really get any of that, cypress, don't really get any of that, and we do have the listed note of absinthe. Now, I agree with that, and I disagree with that as well. Absinthe is a type of spirit. It's not a liqueur because it's not bottled with added sugar, and it is created when you ferment wormwood, aniseed, nutmeg, and a few other spices, if I'm not mistaken. With this particular fragrance, I don't necessarily smell absinthe, but I can kind of get like a wormwood feel from it. And the reason I say that is because when I was smelling it one day, for a split second, I thought to myself, wow, this kind of reminds me of another fragrance. And when I really thought about it and thought it through, the fragrance that it reminded me of is Le Beau Malt by Jean Paul Gaultier, and that fragrance also contains the note of wormwood. So while I would not argue that this fragrance smells like absinthe, I wouldn't doubt that there might be a little bit of wormwood in this fragrance, or at least an aroma chemical that smells like wormwood. But that's really what I get in the mid. In the dry down, it gets musky. You are going to get a lot of musk in the dry down, and there's also the listed note of vetiver that I do pick up on sincerely. I really don't get any cedarwood. I know cedarwood is listed as a note. I'm very familiar with the smell of cedarwood, and many of my favorites, one of them being Straight to Heaven by Killian. This fragrance, unfortunately, I do not get any of it, but I do get the vetiver. Funny thing about the vetiver in this fragrance, though, I really only pick up on it when I exhale on the back of my hand or wherever it is that I happen to spray this fragrance, and then I quickly inhale again. That's really when I pick up on it. Other than that, it's very easily overlooked, I think. So the bottom line for this fragrance, it starts off citrusy. The citrus actually lasts for a long time, and I think that that's an exemplification of the molecular integrity of the aroma chemicals. I think the structure is very solid, so it lasts a very long time, and it smells citrusy for a long time. It gets musky in the dry down and a little grassy at the same time, which kind of gives you a false impression of it being citrusy when the citrus is no longer there, but you still get the ghost of that citrus. I know it sounds funny, but anybody who smelled this fragrance, I think, knows exactly what I'm talking about. In terms of compliments or complaints, what is this fragrance going to get you? I think this fragrance is definitely going to get you a compliment. This is a fragrance that the ladies love. I have gotten a couple of compliments from this fragrance. I wore this in front of my girlfriend for the first time, and she complimented me on it right away. I think it's a very versatile fragrance. It's very easy to wear. The smell is good despite the fact that it's synthetic, and I just think it's a very nice smelling fragrance overall. Very clean smelling fragrance as well. Lastly, have I worn this fragrance outside of testing? Yes. I think this is a perfect fragrance to wear as soon as you get out of the shower to supplement or enhance that clean smell that you get. So there you have it. That was my review of the smell of this fragrance. Last up we have the rating. Take care. First up we have uniqueness and overall smell, and I'm going to give this fragrance a 3 out of 10. Now, don't get me wrong, I do think it's a good smell, but I think it's lacking a lot. This fragrance to me is lackluster. It really left a lot to be desired, and it really lacks that density and the personality that other fragrances possess so well. I feel like this fragrance just doesn't have it. And additionally, on top of that, it does smell quite synthetic too. Now, I do think that this is a nice smelling fragrance. It's inoffensive. I think it's very wearable, and it's bound to get you a compliment, but I don't think that any creative risks were taken here. I can't really give this fragrance points in terms of aesthetic merit. I don't think it does anything new, especially considering that its predecessors have done something very similar to what this fragrance does, and even better than that. So unfortunately, couldn't give it points for that. Also, I don't believe that fixatives were used entirely successfully in this fragrance, hence the reason why it doesn't last for a very long time. But other than that, I think the smell is very nice, so please keep that in the back of your mind. I do like the way that it smells. I ended up giving it a 3 out of 10, all things considered though. Next up, we have longevity. I give this fragrance a 4 out of 10. Now this fragrance on my skin lasts an average of 4 hours. I do get 6 hours on a good day, so 4 to 6 hours is expected, especially considering its concentration, but on average I get 4 hours, so I ended up giving it a 4 out of 10. Next up we have projection. I gave this fragrance a 3 out of 10. Now this fragrance radiates a little bit below an arm's length for about a half hour to an hour, and I believe that's because of the volatile citrus notes that are contained in the opening. After that it starts to sit a little bit closer to the skin, and I'm talking about like the 1 hour to 1.5 hour mark, and it turns into this type of skin scent where you really have to get close to somebody in order for them to be able to smell it on you. I ended up giving it a 3 out of 10 for projection. Next up we have versatility. I took it up a notch. I gave it a 5 out of 10, 2 notches. I do think it's a more versatile fragrance than many, but unfortunately it does lack in some categories. First off, I think the citrus is very unisex. This fragrance, on the other hand, surprisingly, I don't think is too unisex. Just because of the musk and the vetiver and the dry down, I think that that's some of the characteristics in this fragrance that really make it more of a masculine fragrance. In terms of social scenarios, I can only really wear this fragrance casually, and that's because of the smell and the price, all things considered. It doesn't really have the sweet qualities that would make it a good contender for a night out fragrance, and I don't think I would wear this in a suit and tie. I would reach for something a little bit more refined, a little bit more elegant, if you will. I do think that a teenager can wear this fragrance all the way up to somebody in their 40s or 50s. I don't think it has a very mature quality though, but in that range I think is very appropriate. And in terms of seasons, this is a hot weather fragrance, and the citrus just screams that loud and clear. I don't think that because of its performance this would do well in the colder weather, so I ended up giving it a 5 out of 10 for overall versatility. And then last up we have presentation. You already know what I think about that. I ended up giving it a 6 out of 10 for presentation, and then that brings this fragrance to an overall rating, or an average score, of 4.2 out of 10. So there you have it, guys. That was my review of Christian Audigier's Ed Hardy Love and Luck. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to let me know. Please don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. If you own or have smelled this fragrance, please let me know what you think by leaving a comment down below. And if you have any questions, shoot me a message. I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. So again, thank you so much for watching. This has been Steven with another fragrance review from Radolescence. Take care.